The great chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure that orbited the golden planet called Centralis. Inside, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in circular rows, looking down at the center stage. Some had scales, others had fur. Some breathed oxygen, while others needed special suits filled with methane or ammonia. They were the Galactic Council, and they had kept peace in this corner of the galaxy for 12,000 years. Today they were meeting to discuss a problem. A small, unremarkable planet called Earth. Commander Sarah Chen stood alone on the center platform. She wore her military dress uniform, dark blue with golden stripes on the shoulders. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her face showed no emotion even though her heart was racing. Around her, thousands of alien eyes stared down. Some looked curious. Most looked amused. The chamber's lights dimmed and a holographic display appeared above Sarah's head. It showed Earth spinning slowly, blue and green and beautiful. Then the images changed. Wars, explosions, mushroom clouds from nuclear weapons. Cities burning. Forests being cut down. Animals going extinct. A voice echoed through the chamber, translated instantly into hundreds of languages by the Council's technology. It belonged to Ambassador Zethranar, an insectoid creature with 4 arms and compound eyes that glittered like black diamonds. Honored Council members, Zethranar began, his mandibles clicking between words. We present the case of species classification 773, native to the planet they call Earth. As you can see, this species has a violent history spanning their entire existence. They have fought over resources, religious beliefs, and territorial boundaries. They have created weapons capable of destroying their own world. They have damaged their ecosystem to the point of near collapse. More images appeared. Footage of human soldiers fighting, prisoners in camps, pollution choking rivers. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. This was not her turn to speak yet. Furthermore, Zethranar continued, this species only achieved faster than light travel 3 years ago. 3 years! They stumbled upon the principles accidentally while testing a completely different technology. They are primitive, dangerous, and utterly unprepared for galactic civilization. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not cruel laughter exactly, but the kind adults make when a child says something foolish. Sarah felt heat rising in her chest. The humans have requested membership in this council, Zethranar said. They wish to be treated as equals, as partners. More laughter, louder this time. The committee's recommendation is clear. Earth must accept council oversight. They must disarm their weapons of mass destruction. They must allow cultural re-education teams to guide them toward civilized behavior. They must accept peacekeeping forces to maintain order during their transition period. The holographic display changed again, now showing massive warships. They were angular and powerful, covered in dark armor plating. Sarah recognized the design from the briefings she'd received. The Vryn Empire, one of the Council's military arms. If the humans refuse these generous terms, Zethranar said, his voice becoming harder, they will face economic isolation. No trade, no technology sharing, no contact with any Council species. And if they become hostile, the Vryn Empire stands ready to protect galactic peace. The lights brightened. All eyes turned to Sarah. Commander Chen, Zethranar said, you may now respond. Sarah took a deep breath and activated her own holographic display. Earth appeared again, but this time the images were different. The International Space Station. The Mars colony humanity had just established. The first human-alien friendship that had formed when a merchant ship visited Earth. Human doctors fighting disease. Engineers building solar farms. Artists creating beauty. Honored Council, Sarah began, her voice steady and clear. Yes, humanity has a violent past. We don't deny it. We've fought terrible wars. We've made awful mistakes. But we've also learned from those mistakes. We've created the United Nations to solve problems peacefully. We've reduced our nuclear arsenals by 70%. We've started healing our planet's environment. We've done all of this ourselves without outside help. She paused, letting her words sink in. You say we're primitive. Maybe by your standards we are. But we've only known about alien life for 3 years. 3 years! And in that time, we've worked harder than you can imagine to prepare ourselves for this moment. We've studied your laws. We've learned your customs. We've proven we can be responsible members of a galactic community. Sarah's hands clenched into fists at her sides. We don't ask to be coddled. We don't ask to be given special treatment. We ask only to be respected, to be allowed to govern ourselves, to make our own choices even if we sometimes choose wrong. That's what freedom means. Silence filled the chamber. Then Zethranar spoke again, and this time there was no mistaking the condescension in his voice. Commander Chen, your passion is admirable. Truly. But you must understand. We have done this before, many times. Young species always believe they are special. They always think they are ready. And they are always wrong. He gestured with one of his forearms toward the assembled aliens. Every species in this chamber once sat where you sit now. Every one of them accepted council guidance. Every one of them became better for it. A large reptilian creature stood up in the front row. His scales were deep crimson and his eyes were cold and yellow. This was War Prime Krevzoth, commander of the Vryn Empire's military forces. The girl speaks of freedom, Krevzoth said, his voice like rocks grinding together. But what is freedom without wisdom? What is choice without understanding? You humans are children playing with fire. The council does not make this decision to punish you. We do this to save you from yourselves. Sarah felt her control slipping. We are not children. We are a sovereign species with the right to determine our own future. You have 2 standard galactic weeks to decide, Zethranar announced, ignoring her outburst. Accept council oversight, or face the consequences of isolation. The Vryn Empire will be assigned as your peacekeeping force to ensure a smooth transition. And if we refuse, Sarah demanded. If we say no to occupation? Krevzoth's lips pulled back, revealing rows of sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. No one refuses the council, Commander. No one ever has. Your people are intelligent enough to see reason. I am sure of it. The council began to disperse, the session clearly over. Sarah stood alone on the platform, her message unheard, her people's plea rejected. She had come here hoping for dialogue. She had found only arrogance. As she walked back to her ship, Sarah activated her communicator. Chen to Earth Command. Mission failed. They're not listening. They're sending warships. The voice of Admiral Marcus Webb crackled through. How long do we have? 2 weeks for a decision. But I saw their fleet readiness reports. The Vryn will be in orbit in less than 1 week, whether we agree or not. They're treating this as a done deal. There was a long pause. Then Admiral Webb spoke quietly. Then we prepare for the worst. Get home, Sarah. If they want to treat us like primitives who don't know any better, let's show them what primitives can do when they're cornered. Sarah looked back at the council chamber one last time. They had no idea what they had just started. Humanity had learned many lessons from its violent history. The most important lesson was this: never underestimate the desperation of people fighting for their freedom. The war hadn't started yet, but Sarah knew it was coming. And when it did, the galaxy would learn that humanity, for all its flaws, had never learned how to surrender. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council's ultimatum. 6 months since the Vryn warships arrived in Earth's orbit, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. 6 months since humanity's freedom died. Maria Rodriguez walked through the streets of Mexico City with her head down like everyone else. The morning sun was bright, but the city felt dark. On every corner stood Vryn soldiers, their red scales gleaming, their massive bodies armored in black metal. They carried weapons that could vaporize a human in seconds. Everyone knew this because the Vryn had demonstrated it many times. At the central plaza, a crowd had gathered. Maria tried to turn away, but a Vryn soldier blocked her path with the butt of his rifle. "Watch," he growled in broken Spanish. All humans watch. On a raised platform, 3 people knelt with their hands bound. Maria recognized one of them. Carlos Mendez. He had been her neighbor. A factory worker with 2 children. His crime was spray painting "Earth belongs to humans" on a wall. War Prime Krevzoth stood behind the prisoners, his yellow eyes scanning the crowd. "These criminals violated council law," he announced. His voice boomed from speakers throughout the city. "They promoted violence. They rejected peace. This is the consequence." The Vryn commander drew his sidearm. 3 shots. 3 bodies fell. The crowd gasped, but no one cried out. "Crying out would make you next. Go about your day," Krevzoth said. "Obey the law. Live in peace." Maria walked away with tears streaming down her face. Peace. They called this peace. Across the world, the same scene played out in different languages. In New York, in Beijing, in Lagos, in Sydney, The Vrin had established what they called administrative zones in every major city. They controlled the governments. They monitored communications. They had ordered all military forces disbanded and all weapons destroyed. Most nations had complied. The alternative was orbital bombardment. The Vrin had already destroyed 3 cities that resisted. Buenos Aires, Tehran, and Manila were now craters filled with radioactive glass. The message was clear: obey or die. But compliance only went so far. In the mountains of Colorado, deep inside a facility built during the Cold War, Commander Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display. Around her, 50 people worked at computer stations, their faces illuminated by blue light. These were Earth's last free military personnel, along with scientists and engineers who had gone underground before the occupation began. "Report," Sarah said. Lieutenant James Park looked up from his station. "The Vrin patrol patterns are consistent. They're predictable. Every 6 hours they rotate shifts in the same sequence. They've been doing it for 3 months without variation." Sarah nodded. The Vrin were warriors, but they were lazy warriors. They had conquered hundreds of worlds and never faced serious resistance. They had grown complacent. "What about the manufacturing facilities?" Sarah asked. Dr. Kenji Yamamoto, chief engineer, pulled up another display. "The underwater factories are operational. We've completed 12 ships using the alien technology we captured. They're not as advanced as Vrin warships, but they'll fly and they'll fight. The lunar facility has another 8 under construction." 20 ships against a fleet of 200, Sarah muttered. "Impossible odds." "We've faced impossible odds before," Admiral Webb said from the corner of the room. He was older now, grayer, but his eyes were still sharp. "Thermopylae, the Alamo, Dunkirk. Humanity has always fought when we should have surrendered." Sarah managed a small smile. "And how did most of those battles end, Admiral?" "Badly," Webb admitted. "But they bought time. They inspired others. They changed history." Dr. Yamamoto cleared his throat. "There's something else you need to see, Commander. We've been analyzing the Galactic Council's historical database, the one we hacked from their communication satellites. A new display appeared showing planet after planet. Hundreds of them. Each one marked with the same symbol, a red X. "What am I looking at?" Sarah asked. "The truth," Yamamoto said quietly. "The Council's official history says they've been at peace for 12,000 years. But these are classified files. These planets were all home to intelligent species, species that refused Council guidance, species that fought back." Sarah felt ice forming in her stomach. "What happened to them?" "Exterminated. Every single one. The Council doesn't just suppress resistance. They erase it. They remove every trace that these species ever existed. Then they tell the galaxy that the Council has always been peaceful." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. If humanity lost, they wouldn't just be conquered. They would be eliminated. Every man, woman, and child. Every city, every monument, every book, everything that proved humanity had existed would be destroyed. "How many species?" Sarah asked. 217, Yamamoto said. "That we've found so far." Sarah's hands trembled. She had suspected the Council was oppressive, but this was genocide on a scale she couldn't comprehend. 217 entire species murdered and forgotten. Lieutenant Park spoke up. "Commander, there's more. Some of those species fought back. Really fought back. The files contain tactical data. Battle reports. We've been studying them." "And?" Sarah prompted. "The Council's military technology hasn't changed in 4,000 years, Park said, excitement creeping into his voice. "They haven't needed to innovate because no one has seriously challenged them in millennia. Their tactics are outdated. Their strategies are predictable. They rely on overwhelming force and superior numbers." Admiral Webb stepped forward. "They've never fought an enemy that uses guerrilla warfare. They've never faced suicide drones or cyber attacks or psychological operations. All the nasty tricks humanity developed during our violent history, they've never seen anything like it." Sarah looked around the room at the tired, determined faces. "So we have a chance?" "A small one," Yamamoto admitted. "But yes, we have a chance." Over the following months, the resistance grew. In every occupied city, cells of fighters organized in secret. They communicated through old-fashioned methods the Vrin didn't monitor. Handwritten notes, coded graffiti, even Morse code tapped through pipes. They gathered weapons piece by piece. They studied the Vryn soldiers, learning their weaknesses. The Vryn were powerful but arrogant. They never wore their helmets in Earth's breathable atmosphere. They kept their weapons on low-power settings because they didn't see humans as real threats. They followed the same patrol routes every day. Mistakes. All of them mistakes. In Moscow, resistance fighters led by former Spetsnaz operatives began laying traps. In Tokyo, hackers found ways to interfere with Vryn communications. In Johannesburg, engineers built improvised explosives from mining equipment. Across Earth, humanity prepared. Sarah coordinated everything from the underground facility. The plan was simple but brutal. On a single day, every resistance cell would strike simultaneously. They would target Vryn ground forces, communication hubs, and supply depots. At the same moment, Earth's hidden fleet would launch from underwater and lunar bases to attack the orbital fleet. It was suicide. Everyone knew it. But it was better than slow extinction. The night before the uprising, Sarah recorded a message. It would be broadcast to every screen on Earth when the fighting began. "People of Earth," she said, staring into the camera. "Tomorrow we fight. Not because we want war, but because we have no choice. The Galactic Council has given us two options, slavery or death. We choose neither. We choose freedom, no matter the cost. Some of us will die tomorrow. Maybe all of us will die. But we will die as free humans, not as slaves. And maybe, just maybe, we'll take enough of them with us that the galaxy will remember. Humanity was here, we fought, we mattered." She stopped recording and looked at Admiral Webb. "You really think we can win?" Webb was quiet for a long moment. "No," he said honestly. "But I think we can make them bleed. And sometimes that's enough." Outside, in the cities under occupation, Vryn soldiers settled in for another peaceful night. They didn't know that beneath their feet humanity was waking up. They didn't know that the prey was about to become the predator. War Prime Krevzoth stood on his command ship looking down at Earth's lights. "Peaceful at last," he said to his second officer. "The humans have finally accepted their place." His officer nodded. They were easier to break than expected. Neither of them noticed the faint readings on their sensors. Small metallic objects moving through the ocean depths. Ships powering up on the dark side of the moon. Thousands of humans in cities worldwide checking their weapons one last time. The storm was coming, and the Vryn had no idea. The attack began at dawn. In Mexico City, Maria Rodriguez was one of 500 civilians who had been secretly trained for this moment. She walked toward the Vryn checkpoint with a basket of fruit, looking like any other market vendor. The two guards barely glanced at her. They had seen her every morning for weeks. She set the basket down and kept walking. 3 seconds later, the basket exploded. The blast threw both Vryn soldiers backward. Before they could recover, 50 humans emerged from buildings with stolen Vryn rifles. The checkpoint fell in under a minute. Across the city, similar attacks happened at the same moment. The Vryn had 20 checkpoints in Mexico City. Within 5 minutes, 15 of them were destroyed. Resistance fighters melted back into the crowds before reinforcements arrived. The same scene repeated in every major city, worldwide. Beijing, Moscow, London, São Paulo. The Vryn had never faced guerrilla warfare before. They didn't know how to fight an enemy that looked like civilians one moment and soldiers the next. They didn't understand an opponent who valued targets over their own lives. In New York, former Army Rangers led an assault on the Vryn Communications Center in Manhattan. They used the city's subway tunnels to move unseen, emerging directly beneath the building. The Vryn guards fought back fiercely, but they were used to facing enemies in open battle, not close-quarters urban combat. The humans knew every corner, every shadow. Within an hour, the communication center was burning. War Prime Krevzoth received the first reports in his orbiting command ship. Minor disturbances in several cities, his communication officer reported. Primitive attacks. We're responding with ground forces. Krevzoth wasn't worried. Humans were like insects. You stepped on a few, the rest scattered. Increase patrols. Execute any humans found with weapons. This will be over by midday. But it wasn't over. It was just beginning. At Oro 600 hours Earth time, Commander Sarah Chen stood in the control center of the underwater facility off the coast of Japan. Around her, every screen showed green lights. The hidden fleet was ready. "All ships report ready for launch, Commander," Lieutenant Park announced. Sarah took a deep breath. This was it. No turning back. Broadcast the message. Then launch all ships. Her recorded message began playing on every device across Earth. Phones, computers, emergency broadcast systems the Vryn thought they had disabled. Millions of humans stopped what they were doing and watched Commander Sarah Chen tell them that humanity was fighting back. In the waters off Japan, 12 sleek warships rose from the ocean depths. They were smaller than Vryn vessels, built from a combination of human and stolen alien technology. Dr. Yamamoto had designed them to be fast and agile rather than heavily armored. Hit and run, not stand and fight. On the dark side of the moon, 8 more ships launched from hidden craters. 20 ships total, carrying crews who knew they were probably flying to their deaths. Sarah was in the lead ship, a destroyer they had named Defiance. Through the viewscreen, she could see Earth growing smaller behind them and the massive Vryn fleet ahead. 200 warships versus 20. Impossible odds. All ships, this is Chen, she said over the fleet-wide channel. Remember your training. We're not trying to win a fair fight. There's no such thing as a fair fight. Use every dirty trick we've got. Make them bleed for every inch. And if you're going down, take as many of them with you as you can. The Vryn detected them immediately. Alarms blared across the enemy fleet. Warprime Krevzoth stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 20 ships, he roared. The humans have 20 ships? How? They must have built them in secret, his tactical officer stammered. But Commander, they're primitives. Our fleet will destroy them in minutes. Krevzoth's eyes narrowed. Deploy 50 ships to intercept. Destroy them all. I want wreckage and bodies to show the humans what happens to rebels. The Vryn moved with military precision, 50 warships breaking formation to engage the human fleet. They expected a quick battle. They got a nightmare. Sarah's fleet didn't advance in a straight line. They scattered in all directions, moving unpredictably. The Vryn ships were faster, but human ships were more maneuverable. They darted between asteroids, used Earth's moon for cover, and refused to engage in the kind of direct combat the Vryn expected. Then the humans unveiled their first surprise. Launch drones, Sarah ordered. From each human ship, 50 small drones deployed. They were cheap, disposable, and carried just enough explosive to damage a Vryn ship's shield generators. The Vryn had never seen drone warfare before. Their weapons were designed to target large ships, not swarms of small objects. The drones crashed into Vryn vessels like angry hornets. Explosions bloomed across shields. The Vryn weapons tried to track them but couldn't target fast enough. Within minutes, a dozen Vryn ships had damaged shields. Now, Sarah whispered, nuclear missiles full spread. Humanity's oldest weapons of mass destruction, updated with alien propulsion systems, streaked toward the Vryn ships with weakened shields. The Vryn commanders realized the trap too late. 3 of their warships exploded in brilliant white flashes. Another 4 took critical damage. Krevzoth watched in shock. 7 ships damaged or destroyed in the first engagement. Against primitives. All ships engage the humans. Destroy them now! But the humans weren't done. As the Vryn fleet converged on them, Sarah's ship split into 3 groups. One group flew directly at the sun, forcing pursuing Vryn ships to fly through intense radiation that disrupted their sensors. Another group fled toward Jupiter, pulling enemy ships into the gas giant's massive gravity well. The third group did something insane. They flew directly at the largest concentration of Vryn warships. Commander Chen, what are you doing? Lieutenant Park shouted. We'll be destroyed. That's the idea, Sarah said grimly. How many enemy ships are in that formation? 37, but then we take them with us. All ships in my group overload your reactors on my mark. Set them to cascade failure. Understanding dawned on Park's face. He was terrified, but he was also human. He understood sacrifice. Reactor overload sequence initiated. 30 seconds to cascade. The other captains in Sarah's group acknowledged the order without hesitation. 5 ships flying directly at the heart of the Vryn fleet, their reactors building toward catastrophic failure. The Vryn realized what was happening. They're going to self-destruct, someone shouted. Break formation too late. The Vryn ships were too close together, following their standard tight formation tactics. Sarah's 5 ships crashed into the enemy formation and exploded simultaneously. The cascade was devastating. 5 human reactors detonating released energy equivalent to small stars going supernova. The explosion consumed everything within 100,000 kilometers. When the light faded, 37 Vryn warships were gone. Just debris and radiation remained, but so were 5 human ships. 5 crews who had chosen to die, taking the enemy with them. On Earth's surface, the ground battles continued. The Vryn were sending reinforcements to every city, but they were spread thin. The humans fought from windows, rooftops, sewers, and tunnels. They used homemade explosives, stolen weapons, and anything else they could find. In Lagos, resistance fighters collapsed a building on top of a Vryn armored column. In Moscow, snipers picked off Vryn officers from 1,000 meters away. In Sydney, hackers crashed a Vryn transport ship directly into their own command center. It was chaos. Brutal, bloody chaos. Humans died by the thousands, but so did the Vryn. War Prime Krevzoth stared at his tactical display, watching his fleet's numbers drop. 52 ships now. 52 ships lost to primitives with inferior technology. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was happening. "Commander," his tactical officer said, voice shaking. "The humans are still fighting. Ground forces are requesting full orbital bombardment of all major cities." Krevzoth's claws dug into his command chair. Orbital bombardment would kill millions of humans, but it would also end this nightmare. He opened his mouth to give the order. Then another alarm blared. "Commander, enemy ship approaching at high speed. It's heading directly for our position." On the view screen, a single human ship appeared. It was damaged, leaking atmosphere, its hull scorched black. But it was accelerating, not slowing down. Inside that ship, Commander Sarah Chen sat alone. Her crew had evacuated in escape pods minutes ago on her orders. The bridge was dark except for the glow of her controls. Through the cracked view screen, she could see Krevzoth's massive flagship growing larger. She activated her communication system one last time. "This is Commander Sarah Chen to all ships. To everyone listening, we taught them that humans can fight. Now I'll teach them that humans can die. Remember Earth." She locked her course directly toward the Vryn flagship and pushed the throttle to maximum. Then she activated the experimental weapon Dr. Yamamoto had installed. It was unstable, dangerous, and had never been tested. Perfect for a suicide run. War Prime Krevzoth watched the human ship approach. "Destroy it! Fire all weapons!" The Vryn flagship's weapons tore into the human ship. Armor peeled away. Systems exploded. But the ship kept coming, driven by momentum and a dead woman's determination. It struck the flagship's bridge like a spear through a heart. The experimental weapon detonated, tearing the massive Vryn warship in half. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as death. Ambassador Zethranar stood at the center podium, his 4 arms trembling. Around him, representatives from 47 species stared at the holographic display, showing the wreckage of the Vryn fleet floating in Earth's orbit. "This is impossible," someone whispered. "The humans were supposed to be primitives." Another voice said. Zethranar's compound eyes reflected the images of destruction. War Prime Krevzoth's flagship torn in half, 52 Vryn warships destroyed. The remaining fleet fled back to Council space with their confidence shattered. And Earth, that insignificant blue planet, still spinning defiantly in space. "How did they do this?" demanded Council Speaker Thelros, an ancient being whose species had founded the Council 8,000 years ago. "The Vryn Empire has never been defeated. Never." Zethranar pulled up tactical reports, his mandibles clicking nervously. "The humans used unconventional warfare, suicide attacks, cyber weapons, drone swarms, guerrilla tactics. They sacrificed their own people willingly to achieve tactical advantages. The Vryn were unprepared for such savagery." "Savagery?" A delegate from the Myros Collective stood up, her blue skin darkening with anger. "The humans defended their home. We sent warships to occupy their planet. We executed their citizens. And you call their resistance savagery?" "They are primitives!" Zethranar snapped back. "They barely achieved spaceflight. By what right do they defy the Council?" "By the same right we took from 200 other species," the Myros delegate said quietly. The chamber erupted. Voices shouted in 100 languages. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others questioned the morality of the occupation. A few, very few, suggested maybe the humans had a point. Council Speaker Thelros raised his staff and silence fell. "Enough. The humans have humiliated us. This cannot stand. If we allow one species to defeat us, others will follow. The entire council system will collapse." "What do you propose?" asked a delegate. "We gather the full military might of the council," Thelros said. "Not 50 ships. Not 100. 300 warships from 15 different member species. We go to Earth and we make an example of them. Complete extermination. Every human, every city, every trace of their existence. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who resist. The vote was called. The result was overwhelming. Only 5 species voted against total war. The rest wanted blood. Zethranar was given command of the fleet. I will personally ensure the humans are erased, he promised. This time there will be no mistakes. But while the Council prepared for war, something else was happening across the galaxy. The battle for Earth had been broadcast on every communication network. Billions of beings had watched humans fight and die for their freedom, and for many of them it awakened something that had been sleeping for a very long time. Hope. On the planet Crestar, a species called the Krell watched the footage in their homes. They had been conquered by the Council 300 years ago. They had accepted Council oversight, Council education, Council rules. They had forgotten what freedom felt like. A young Krell named Zontar watched Commander Sarah Chen's final message over and over. "Remember Earth," she had said before flying her ship into the enemy flagship. He felt something stirring in his chest. Anger, pride, hope. "We could do that," he whispered to his sister. "We could fight." "The Council would destroy us," she said, but her voice was uncertain. They tried to destroy Earth. The humans won. Similar conversations happened on a dozen worlds. Species that had been conquered, occupied, or threatened by the Council looked at Earth's victory and wondered. If primitives with inferior technology could defeat the Council's military, what could they do? Meanwhile on Earth, the celebration was brief. Admiral Webb stood in the ruins of the Colorado Command Center, looking at casualty reports. 3 million civilians dead, 2,000 resistance fighters killed in action, 15 of their 20 ships destroyed, including Commander Sarah Chen's. "We won," Lieutenant Park said quietly. "But the price is always high," Webb said. "Freedom isn't free." "That's not just a saying. That's the truth written in blood." Dr. Yamamoto entered the room, his face grim. "Admiral, we've intercepted Council communications. They're assembling a fleet, 300 ships." The room fell silent. They had barely survived fighting 50 Vryn warships. 300 would be unstoppable. "How long do we have?" Webb asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. "They're gathering ships from across Council territory." Webb closed his eyes. They had won one battle, but the war was far from over. "We need allies. Send encrypted messages to every species we've had contact with. Tell them what the Council is planning. Show them the classified files we found about the 200 species that were exterminated. Maybe someone will help us." "And if no one responds?" Park asked. "Then we fight anyway," Webb said. "Because that's what humans do." But Earth wasn't just preparing to fight. They were preparing to talk. A young diplomat named Ambassador David Okafor was chosen to lead a desperate mission. He would travel to neutral trading stations and try to contact species that might be sympathetic to Earth's cause. Okafor's ship, a small courier vessel, visited 7 different stations over the next week. At each one, he broadcast the truth about the Council's history. The genocide, the oppression, the lies about peaceful expansion. Most species were afraid to even listen. The Council's power was too great. But a very few, took notice. On a remote trading station near the Galactic Rim, Okafor met with a delegate from the Myros Collective, the species that had spoken up during the Council vote. "We cannot help you militarily," the Myros delegate said. "Our fleet is small and the Council would crush us." "I understand," Okafor said. "I'm just asking that you watch. When the Council fleet arrives, broadcast what happens. Let the galaxy see the truth." The delegate was quiet for a long moment. "That is not nothing you ask. The Council will punish anyone who interferes." "Then don't interfere," Okafor said. "Just watch. Just record." "Is that too much to ask?" Finally, the delegate nodded. "We will watch, and we will show the galaxy what we see." Similar promises came from 4 other species. They wouldn't fight, but they would witness. In a galaxy where information was controlled by the Council, even that was dangerous. Back on Earth, humans prepared for what might be their last stand. Every remaining weapon was readied. Every ship was repaired. Plans were made for evacuation of children to remote colonies, though everyone knew there was nowhere far enough to hide if Earth fell. On the 3rd week, long-range sensors detected the Council fleet. 300 warships from 15 different species, all converging on Earth's solar system. At the head of the fleet was Ambassador Zethrinar's command ship, twice the size of the late war Prime Krevzoth's flagship. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of humanity's new flagship, a destroyer they had named Remembrance in honor of Commander Sarah Chen and all the fallen. Around him the remaining human fleet gathered. They had managed to repair and rebuild 15 ships. 15 against 300, well, Webb said to his crew. We've been in worse situations. Actually, no, we haven't. This is definitely the worst situation we've ever been in. Nervous laughter rippled through the bridge. It was either laugh or cry, and they had done enough crying. All ships, this is Admiral Webb. You know what's coming. You know the odds. If anyone wants to evacuate to the Mars colony, now's your chance. No one will think less of you, he waited. No one moved. No one left. All right then, Webb said. Let's show these council bastards that humanity doesn't know how to quit. As the council fleet entered the solar system, broadcasts began from 5 different neutral species: the Miros Collective, the Pulkan Unity, the Free Traders of Xerxes, the Nomadic Clans, and the Crystalline Communes all began streaming live footage to billions of viewers across the galaxy. For the first time in council history, their actions would not happen in secret. The galaxy was watching. Ambassador Zethrinar opened a communication channel to Earth. His face appeared on every screen, his compound eyes cold and merciless. Humans of Earth, he announced, you have defied the Galactic Council. You have destroyed Council military forces. You have rejected peace and chosen war. Now you will face the consequences. This is your final chance to surrender. Lay down your weapons, evacuate your planet, and perhaps we will allow some of you to live as refugees. Resist, and we will erase every trace of your species from existence. On the Bridge of Remembrance, Admiral Webb activated his own communication system. His weathered face appeared on view screens across the fleet and on Earth below. Ambassador Zethrinar, Webb said calmly, thank you for the offer, but I'm afraid we'll have to decline. You see, we've been studying your history. We know what happens to species that surrender to the Council. You don't re-educate them. You don't help them. You erase them. So we figure we might as well go down fighting. You cannot win, Zethrinar said. You are outnumbered 20-1. Yeah, we're aware of the math, Webb said. But here's the thing about humans. We're really stubborn, and we're mean when we're cornered. So come on then, let's see if your 300 ships are enough. The communication cut off. For a moment, silence hung in space. Then Admiral Webb turned to his crew and smiled. Let's dance. The battle began with deception. Admiral Webb's 15 ships didn't charge forward heroically. They ran. They scattered in every direction, using the same hit-and-run tactics that had worked against the Vryn. The Council fleet pursued, confident in their overwhelming numbers. That's when Earth revealed its first surprise. Over the past 3 weeks, while the Council assembled its fleet, human engineers had been busy. They had turned the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter into a minefield. Thousands of asteroids hollowed out and filled with explosives, all rigged with remote detonators. As Council ships chased human vessels through the asteroid field, Webb gave the command. Detonate! 50 asteroids exploded simultaneously. The blast tore through Council formations, destroying 12 ships instantly and damaging 20 more. Debris from the explosions created a chaotic debris field that disrupted sensors and made formation flying impossible. Scatter, Zethrinar ordered. Reform outside the asteroid field. But Webb wasn't done. As the Council ships regrouped, humanity unveiled its second surprise. From hidden locations on Earth's moon, Mars, and several large asteroids' missile batteries opened fire. These weren't ordinary missiles. Human engineers had taken every nuclear weapon Earth possessed and retrofitted them with alien propulsion and targeting systems. Hundreds of warheads streaked toward the Council fleet. The Council ships activated their defenses, shooting down most of the missiles. But not all. 20 more ships took damage or were destroyed. The Council fleet's neat formation dissolved into chaos. Ambassador Zethrinar watched his tactical display with growing fury. 32 ships lost already, and they hadn't even engaged the human fleet directly. All ships target the human vessels. Ignore everything else. Kill them! The Council fleet, still over 250 strong, turned toward the 15 human ships. This was the moment when numbers should have mattered, when superior firepower and technology should have crushed the primitives. Admiral Webb had one more card to play. Now, he said quietly, release the hunters. From hidden bays on every human ship, Thousands of small craft deployed. They weren't traditional fighters. They were autonomous drones, each one controlled by advanced artificial intelligence. The Council had banned AI research centuries ago, calling it dangerous and unpredictable. Humanity had never signed that treaty. The AI drones swarmed the Council fleet like angry wasps. Each one was programmed with one simple objective: damage enemy ships by any means necessary. They flew in coordinated patterns no organic pilot could match, targeting weak points, shield generators, and weapon systems. The Council's anti-fighter defenses were designed for piloted craft that followed predictable patterns. The AI drones didn't. Chaos erupted across the battlefield. Council ships fired in all directions, sometimes hitting each other. Their formation discipline, their primary advantage, collapsed completely, and in that chaos, human pilots struck. Lieutenant Park, piloting a fighter named Spirit, led his squadron through the madness. They targeted Council ships that were already damaged, finishing them off quickly before moving to the next target. It was brutal efficiency born from humanity's long history of warfare. On Earth's surface, Maria Rodriguez and millions of other civilians watched the battle on their screens. Every time a human ship was destroyed, people cried out. Every time a Council ship exploded, they cheered. The battle had become personal for everyone who had lived through the occupation, but even with all their tricks, humanity was losing. The numbers were simply too overwhelming. One by one, human ships fell. The destroyer Vengeance exploded after taking concentrated fire from 10 Council ships. The cruiser Defiant went down protecting a damaged ally. 8 human ships remained, then 6, then 4. Ambassador Zethranar allowed himself a smile. It's over. They fought well for primitives, but it's over. All ships, prepare for orbital bombardment of Earth. We'll destroy every city simultaneously. But across the galaxy, billions of beings were watching through the live feeds from neutral species. They watched humans fight with desperate courage against impossible odds. They watched the Council fleet with all its might struggle against 15 ships, and they began to ask questions. On Crestar, the young Krell named Zontar made a decision. He sent an encrypted message to resistance cells across his planet. If the humans can fight, so can we. When the Council fleet returns, we strike. Similar messages spread across a dozen worlds. The seeds of rebellion were being planted. Back in the solar system, Admiral Webb stood on the Bridge of Remembrance, the last functional human capital ship. His uniform was torn, his face bleeding from where debris had hit him. Around him, the bridge crew worked frantically to keep systems operational. "Sir, we're the last ship standing," Lieutenant Park reported. "All other vessels are destroyed or disabled." Webb looked at the tactical display. 203 Council ships surrounded them. It was over. They had killed or disabled nearly 100 enemy vessels, an achievement that would have seemed impossible a month ago. But it wasn't enough. "All right," Webb said quietly. "Set reactor to overload. Let's take as many of them with us as we can." "Wait," the communications officer shouted. "Admiral, I'm picking up new contacts." Multiple ships entering the system. Webb's heart sank. Reinforcements. The Council had brought reinforcements. Of course they had. "How many?" 20 ships, sir, but they're not Council configurations. They're broadcasting friendly signals. They're ships from conquered species." On the view screen, 20 warships appeared. They were mismatched, cobbled together from stolen and salvaged technology. But they were there. Ships from the Krell, the Miros Collective, the Polkon Unity, and 7 other species that had suffered under Council rule. A communication came through. A Krell voice, young and determined. "This is Captain Zontar of the Free Krell Navy. We saw what the humans did. We saw you fight for your freedom. We decided we're tired of being slaves too. We're here to help." Tears streamed down Admiral Webb's face. "Captain Zontar, you beautiful fool. You know the Council will come for your planet next, right?" "Let them come," Zontar replied. "The humans taught us something. Freedom is worth fighting for. Besides, you need help. You look terrible." Despite everything, Webb laughed. "Yeah, we've had better days. Welcome to the fight." The 20 new ships crashed into the Council formation. They weren't as advanced as Council vessels, but they were crewed by beings who had dreamed of this moment for years. Slaves striking back at their masters. Ambassador Zethranar stared at his display in horror. "This is impossible. Multiple species are attacking us. How did they organize?" His tactical officer's voice shook. Sir, we're receiving reports from across Council space. Rebellions are breaking out on 14 different worlds. Species that were conquered centuries ago are rising up. It's chaos. Zethranar realized with cold certainty that Earth hadn't just won a battle. They had started a revolution. The galaxy had watched humans fight for freedom and decided they wanted freedom too. All ships retreat, Zethranar ordered. We must return to Council space immediately. But retreating from a battle they should have won easily was the final humiliation. As the Council fleet turned to flee, Admiral Webb gave one last command. All ships pursue. Hit them while they run. Make them remember this day. The combined human and rebel fleet chased the Council ships out of the solar system, harrying them every light year. By the time the Council fleet reached friendly territory, only 140 ships remained. Nearly half their fleet, destroyed or captured by the very species they had oppressed. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The Galactic Council emergency session was broadcast publicly for the first time in history. The neutral species that had witnessed the battle demanded transparency. Council Speaker Thelros tried to maintain order, but his authority had evaporated. Species after species stood up to accuse the Council of oppression, genocide, and tyranny. The classified files about the 200 exterminated species were leaked to every public network. The Council couldn't suppress the truth anymore. A vote was called. Not on whether to attack Earth again, but on whether the Council itself should continue to exist in its current form. The vote was close, but the reformers won. The old Council structure was dissolved. A new Galactic Assembly would be formed, one where every species had an equal voice, where military action required overwhelming consensus, where transparency was mandatory. Ambassador Zethranar, facing prosecution for war crimes, fled to the Outer Rim and was never seen again. 3 months after the battle, Earth received an official delegation from the reformed Galactic Assembly. This time, the aliens came as equals, not as conquerors. Admiral Webb, now promoted to Ambassador Webb for his role in the revolution, met them at the landing platform. The delegation was led by a Miros diplomat and Captain Zontar of the Krell. Ambassador Webb, the Miros diplomat said formally, the Galactic Assembly extends its apologies for the actions of the old Council. We offer Earth a seat at the Assembly as a full member species with all rights and privileges. Webb looked at the aliens for a long moment. What about the other species? The ones who helped us fight? They too are being offered full membership, Zontar said with a smile. 23 species in total.